Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Dr. Nachi Sinha, and today we will talk about emotional abuse, which has unfortunately become very common in our society. The sad part about emotional abuse is that its victims do not even realize they are being abused. Plus, many people do not even consider emotional abuse as abuse. That's because physical abuse leaves marks and injuries visible to everyone, but people cannot see scars of emotional abuse imprinted on the victim's mind and soul, and it takes them a long time to recover from this form of abuse. Today's video will deeply explore some common signs of emotional abuse. If you spot any of these signs in your relationships, understand that it is a form of abuse, and you shouldn't accept that. So, what is emotional abuse? Emotional abuse is when a person is criticized, embarrassed, bullied, blamed, and yelled at by the abuser. The main motive of the abuser behind emotional abuse is to control, manipulate, or belittle the victim. Emotional abuse is quite common in dating relationships or between married couples. However, it can also exist in any relationship. For instance, a person can be emotionally abused by friends, siblings, parents, teachers, or bosses. Just as the physical abuse leaves bruises and marks on the body, emotional abuse shatters and injures the self-esteem and confidence of the victim. But, contrary to physical abuse, emotional abuse is the hardest form of abuse to detect. The victim often thinks that his abuser is critiquing him for their own good. But it drains the victim's self-confidence when the abuser continues controlling, critiquing, or using abusive words. The victim gets trapped into believing whatever the abuser says about them. Moreover, in severe cases, the victim also starts believing that the abuser abused them because of something they did wrong. Being in an emotionally abusive relationship makes the person dependent on the abuser. The constant abuse and control make the victim believe he's not good enough. Hence, nobody will like to have a relationship with them. The victim stays in an abusive relationship with no love, care, or respect for his spouse, partner, or friends, etc. Common signs of emotional abuse. If you want to check whether your relationship is emotionally abusive, look out for these signs. It is not necessary that every emotionally abusive relationship has all of these signs, but if you observe even one or two of these signs in a relationship, it's a red flag for you. These signs will help you identify emotional abuse in any relationship. The first sign is that the partner has unrealistic and unreasonable demands for you. This is one of the most common signs of an emotionally abusive relationship. The person expects his partner, spouse, or friend to match their expectation levels. For instance, they can demand them to look a certain way, talk in a specific manner, or even expect their opinions to be aligned with them. This sign is quite common in dating and marital relationships. One partner demands the other to spend all their time with them or not meet their friends, etc. In the beginning, these signs make the victim feel that their partners care about them. In reality, the partner just wants to control the victim and want them to behave just as they want. The second sign of emotional abuse is persistent dissatisfaction. The emotional abuser is never satisfied. They keep complaining about their partner not making enough effort or trying to make them happy. A very common example of this case is when one spouse gives the other the example of others. For instance, they'll say stuff like, "My friend's wife is an excellent cook, you should learn from her. Mary's husband earns more than you and keeps a happy wife. You don't make me happy or care about my feelings." The victims constantly try hard to make their partners happy, but their partners will remain ungrateful and dissatisfied. This sign is present in marital relationships and between friends and colleagues. Moving on to the third sign, which is yelling. Now, this sign is not even considered abuse. People think that yelling and screaming are just a product of anger and they go away. But in the case of emotional abuse, yelling is quite a common sign. In fact, it is one of the very first signs that indicate the start of an emotional abuse. If your partner, boss, friends, siblings, etc. yell at you for very small things, it is an abusive tactic. And if they yell in public or in front of other family members, it can ruin the victim's self-esteem. Moreover, when yelling becomes frequent, the victim starts to fear the abuser and thinks of him as an intimidating and powerful person. On the other hand, the abuser easily controls or scares the victim just by raising his voice. The fourth common sign of emotional abuse is using offensive language. This particular sign of emotional abuse is extremely harmful to the victim's mental health and confidence. The abuser crushes the victim's self-esteem, goals and ambitions by using insulting language and making personal attacks. The abuser might pass hurtful remarks like, "You are not pretty. Nobody will like to stay with you. You're useless. You can never achieve anything in your life. Forget about getting a degree. You're not smart enough. Lip fillers will fix your thin lips," etc. Such remarks from partners or loved ones can shake the victim's confidence. These remarks push victims into thinking that their abusers are right and they are not good for anyone. Another disastrous effect of such remarks is that the victim clings to his abuser further. Because they are forced to believe that they are not good enough, hence nobody will accept them. Consequently, the victim depends more on the abuser and gets controlled by him. The fifth sign that we will discuss is imposing restrictions to meet family and friends. This sign doesn't pop up right at the beginning of the abuse. It appears slowly and becomes so severe that the victim is forced to cut off ties with his family or friends, and in the end, the victim is isolated, which gives more chances to the abuser to control and manipulate them. So, how does it start? In the beginning, the abuser will make the victim believe that he loves and cares for them. They will also trap the victim into thinking that they miss them when they are out with their friends or family. After that, they will start imposing restrictions like, "Don't talk to this friend, stay away from that colleague, don't go out after 8 PM, remove your pictures from social media, don't talk to your family members on the phone, let me come along everywhere you go." Then comes a time when the victim has no one to turn to for help. They are isolated and all alone with the abuser. This damages their mental health and adds to their stress and anxiety. Sometimes the victim even develops the sign of depression. The sixth sign of an emotionally abusive relationship is gaslighting. When a victim complains to the abuser about his attitude and abuse, the abuser denies all accusations. They straight away tell the victims that no such event took place and that they're making things up. Gaslighting is a detrimental move by abusers, and it makes the victims doubt themselves. The victim questions himself whether an event happened or not, or whether it was just their imagination. And this doubt leads the abuser to control the victim even more. They carry on with their abusive behavior, and they deny it all together when controlled. Some of the most common things that gaslighters say are, "Are you crazy? When did this happen? You're making things up. I don't recall such an incident. You're too sensitive and you're overthinking. I never said that to you. It's all in your head." Such remarks make the victim doubt themselves. They start questioning their sanity because the abuser makes them believe that nothing happened in reality. This way, the abuser sets himself free of any accountability or taking responsibility for his action. Sign number 7 of emotional abuse is constant blaming. The abuser never takes responsibility for his action. He either denies them altogether or shifts the blame on the victim. He justifies his action by saying that whatever happened was because of the victim's mistake. They even make the victim believe that whatever happened was their fault, and it could have been avoided if the victim had tried. For example, they might say, "If you had listened to me or did what I told you, I wouldn't have yelled at you." With time, the victim also starts blaming themselves for the abuse. They get trapped, thinking they must have done something wrong to provoke the abuser to abuse. This mindset affects their mental health, and they become fearful of the abuser. Moreover, they push themselves to keep the abuser happy, even if it costs him stress and unhappiness. Let's discuss another common sign of emotional abuse: jealousy. A little bit of jealousy is there in everyone's relationship. People sometimes become insecure about their friends, partners, and lovers. Because of that, they feel slightly jealous of people close to their loved one. For example, a girlfriend might be jealous of her boyfriend's friend or cousin. But when jealousy increases, it becomes unhealthy for the relationship. It often leads to posing restrictions and unreasonable demands on the partner, which falls under emotional abuse. An emotional abuser wants full control over the victim. He wants the victim to revolve around him and always put his needs first. When the abuser becomes insecure or jealous of someone, he will control the victim by constantly accusing the victim of cheating or being unfaithful, invading their privacy, checking personal phone calls, messages, emails, etc., not allowing them to go with their friends, calling or making frequent visits to the workplace. When an abuser starts imposing these conditions, they do it in the name of love and care. And the victim believes them, but with time it gets severe and the victim feels suffocated and trapped. Let's talk about the 9th sign on our list today, which is anger an unpredictable outburst. The abuser gets extremely angry with the victim and starts shouting at them. The outburst and anger are all unpredictable. The victim feels like walking on the eggshells as he has no idea about the mood of his abuser. And with time, the sudden outburst will turn into threats or violent behaviour. The abuser might bang his fist on a wall, break things, or in any way indicate that they can physically hurt the victim. This sign of emotional abuse is a big red flag for the victim. If the victim doesn't ask for help or leave the relationship, he might get physically hurt by the abuser. Sexual coercion. Sexual coercion refers to forcing, tricking, or pressurizing the victim to engage in sexual activities. The abuser makes the victims feel as if they are liable to have sex with the abuser. For instance, the abuser might remind the victim of all the favors they have done for them or how they are always available for them. This form of abuse adds to a lot of stress to the victim. The abuser keeps on pressurizing the victim until they agree. Sometimes the abuser might threaten the victim if they don't agree to their demands. Moreover, an abuser might lie or promise to do or abstain from certain things if the victim agrees to sex. Emotional abuse shouldn't be taken lightly. If this is not stopped, it will turn into physical abuse. Furthermore, emotional abuse takes a serious toll on the victim's mental health. Hence, if you spot any signs in your relationship, understand that it is not love or protection. Instead, you are being abused. Similarly, if you think your friends or family members are going through the same abuse, educate them about emotional abuse and its signs. In my next video, I'll talk about how you can end emotional abuse and ease your mental stress. Hence, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click the notification icon so that you get notified about my new video. Thanks for watching this video. I'll see you next time. Take care.